All right, so we'll start over here. The reason that the video is going to start with your leg already being partially in its leg lift is you just got a little quick on me when I was getting that video. From the time you came set to the time you lifted your leg was super quick. Um, so I missed the beginning stages of it, but that's not all that important. What we're going to see here first is we're going to pause it at the first time that your foot makes contact with the ground, and then we'll play it and pause it again when it makes full connection with the ground. We can see that is a very quick process. Ultimately, we're looking for that to be as flush and one movement as possible, but what we are working with is pretty darn close. So we're good there. What we're going to, though, notice is that this knee and the kneecap is kind of facing this direction over here. And that's going to prevent your hips from being able to rotate forward. Even though, if we look, this back foot looks like it's rotated pretty well. We'll be able to see that better from the side views. But because this front knee here hasn't rotated enough, we have now created this angle in our leg that's blocking this back hip from being able to rotate forward. However, our upper body here is in a fantastic position. The one thing we have to be cautious of and make sure we pay attention to as we continue this video is we see that this elbow has kind of gotten outside of our shoulder, which means energy from this part of our arm is going to want to start to go this way. If the elbow here can swivel in to the body as this back shoulder comes through to throw, we're going to be just fine. However, if this elbow continues to take us in this direction and this glove goes in this direction, that's going to take our shoulder then in this direction, which will take our energy beginning to go in that direction when we need it to go there, which will take away some of our power and some of our accuracy. So we'll watch as it continues, and we can see that that elbow did in fact do some swiveling inwards, and that prevents the shoulder from flying open. So we're real good and clean with this front side glove. We could look to get it maybe even a little tighter, but right now we're pretty much at the point where we're going to be good more times than we're not, but we're right on that borderline. So if we could think about this elbow swooping in just a little bit more, trying to get into our rib cage a little bit, so that way the glove kind of finishes more in this area over here as opposed to this area over here. But all in all, at this position here at release, our body is trying to stay in a good alleyway. We can see that this back foot is continuing to turn over really well. We just can notice how much this back hip is able to come through. Boom. But unfortunately, it's come through at the same time that the upper body's come through. So the upper, oops, let me just do that again. Whoa, what just happened? There we go. The upper body and lower body, that separation we want to have, meaning the lower body is rotated by that time that front foot hits the ground, and the upper body stays back, we don't really have that. The lower body is closed and the upper body is closed, and then when the lower body begins to really rotate forward, when the lower body really gets to rotate forward, really gets to rotate forward, really gets to rotate forward, we can also see how much this upper body is also starting to rotate forward, rotate forward, rotate forward, rotate forward. So if we could get this lower body to be like here, even say like in this position here, boom. We snapshot this right here, and we say that this was also paired up with then this upper body position with this lower body position at that same time, boom, we just gained a bunch of power and took a bunch of stress off your arm. However, all in all, our body moves very well. There's a lot of things that your body does either naturally well or you've been taught and instructed very well, especially this right here coming through. We're trying to be firm on that front side. We got good ability for that back hip to continue to accelerate and around and through. There's a lot of good stuff that we can do with this type of delivery here, to little tweaks here, little tweaks there, to help unlock a lot more power. That's looking good. If we come over here and we get you rolling, we're going to notice that this leg lift is not very high at all. If we get just like a line drawn across your hips here, we're going to see that that knee never gets really even close to your hips. From the distance that the knee starts at to the distance it gets is like halfway to your hip height. And we kind of did that same experiment over here. We don't really have a reference point of where it starts, but we do have a reference point of where it ends being there. We take that back and we can see that's at his hip height. So like we're getting to that good minimum of a leg lift. Something that's going to help you, but I forgot to mention, get this knee up even higher, is if this foot can be dangling underneath your knee, that'll allow for the knee to be able to travel higher. But if the foot raises pretty much straight up off the ground and gets caught up underneath your butt, this knee is going to get kind of capped right around here. And us being able to do some extra things with our lower body to create power is going to come at an easier, it's going to be easier to do if this knee can get just a little bit higher for you. So thinking about that foot kind of being dangling underneath the knee, excuse me, so that way we almost have like a 90-degree bend in this knee. Or I'm sorry. Right now you have like a 90-degree bend in your knee. When we're raising this up, you want to think more of a bigger angle. And then at the very top, it'll turn into this type of angle that you already have. Hopefully you guys have been learning angles in math class, so some of those symbols make sense to you. If not, we can talk about it on Wednesday. So back to over here, we just want to think about getting that leg up higher. Oops, didn't mean to pause it there. Let me go back so you can watch it all in one motion. And we can see when you make first contact with the ground, it's very much on the inside part of our foot. And then we'll see how then it will roll, boom. And what we're going to notice is not only is the foot going to kind of roll this way, the knee is going to roll this way. And also we're going to notice something up here rolling out that way. So we kind of watch as that occurs. Boom. We can kind of see how that foot rolled this way, the knee rolled out, and so did the elbow and glove kind of continuing on that path over there. And what we'll notice, oops, I didn't hit that one. What we'll notice is because that elbow and glove have been kind of swooping out, it then will continue to go in this direction, all that energy, and then it's going to end up taking this shoulder, then with it, boom, and now this shoulder is over here opening up somewhat. And now we can see how much different our upper body looks from this point in time when our foot first hits the ground in a good closed off position to once that front foot fully gets connected with the ground, how that upper body then has almost halfway rotated towards the target already. It started here, it's now to here, and it will release the ball somewhere in here. Boom. Coming out of those fingers tips right there. So we are just sacrificing or losing our upper body's rotational power to help us throw hard, because we're not able to rotate with as much power because we aren't able to rotate as much. If I can rotate from here with a nice firm connected front leg, I'm going to have over 90 degrees of upper body rotation to help me create power. But by the time your front leg does get into that good firm position, we may only be left with 30, 40 degrees of rotation to power our throw. Because like we said in the beginning, we can't throw this baseball until we have 2 feet nice and secured into the ground. And unfortunately, this first moment of contact isn't secured. It gets secured there. So now that we're secured and have this back foot nice and rotated and this back hip nice and rotated forward and that belt buckle exposed, now we can really power this throw. But we're not left with much as much rotation left to go through to throw this baseball hard. Where if we kind of looked over here and see once we get our foot fully into contact with that ground, just the difference in that upper body position, right? Granted, your front knee is in a much better position with this leg than we are here. And if we got this front leg over here to the position yours is, the upper body may be in a similar position. So if we look, once that leg is in a better position, boom, here, yes, we have sacrificed a lot of that rotation. But what we can see is that over here, to get us in a good position, we just need to rotate this knee a little bit more. For you to get in a better position at foot strike, we need to make sure that this glove doesn't get so far outside of our body. We can see the slight differences in that here. Because like we said, once that glove and elbow get this far outside your body, that's going to take that shoulder outside that body. And if that shoulder gets outside that body, that's going to want to pull that backside around as well, because the shoulders are connected to each other. So where this shoulder goes, this back shoulder will also start to want to go with it. So if we want this back shoulder to go this way, we have to make sure that this shoulder stays right here. And like we can see that this shoulder is going to want to stay right there during that time. Boom, 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 boom. But we can see that yours is going to go from boom to boom. And that's when it opens up, opens up, opens up, as opposed to staying closed, staying closed. Eyes over my shoulder, eyes over my shoulder, versus eyes over my shoulders, eyes over nothing. Eyes over my shoulders, eyes over nothing. So if we can keep that glove and elbow closer to our body, aka finishing our glove into our body, that'll help that shoulder stay here, so that way we can continue to be looking over that shoulder once that knee does continue its swivel out. But we also need to have this thigh part, but most of the knee, rotate as well. It's not just the foot swooping out, swooping out, swooping out. Swooping out is a good approach or a good technique to how we move that front leg, but we just got to make sure that once we start to rotate it, we got to really get this knee to rotate. Same with getting this foot to rotate. So that way, once this foot gets in the ground, that knee can be rotated more as well. So that way we could be in a good upper lower half separation position. We could be in a good hip shoulder separation, which creates all that good power for us. Okay, so we then go to our comparison. And like I said, you just kind of got a little quick on me from that front view, but we'll get it synced up here. Okay, so what I want us to really focus on is this backside leg. And we do a really good job of keeping our weight back in this hip, trying to keep ourselves closed off. We can see that here, trying to keep ourselves closed off. But the ability to sit into this back hip is only as valuable as our ability to drive and rotate this back knee. Oops, didn't want to continue it there. Shoot. So let me get that again. You're doing a really good job being able to sit into this back hip, but the only way that sitting into that back hip is going to be of value to us is if we can get then this back knee to rotate forward, and also this back foot to rotate through this big toe to our target, all before this front foot hits the ground. And what we're going to notice is that when this front foot does hit the ground, boom, and we'll even take it to the next one, that the back knee has in fact rotated. Yes. The back hip has unfortunately not been able to rotate forward, and we know that because your belt buckle is about right here, which means one hip is here and the other hip we know is here, and that angle is pretty much here. When we're looking to get that belt buckle to be going to our target with this back hip rotated to the target, so that way we have more of an angle here, which would look more of like an angle if we drew it be this way. And we can see that we just got to go just a little bit more rotated to get there. So how do we get that back hip to get more rotated? It's all from this back foot getting itself more rotated. And we'll see it gets more rotated right about now. Right about now. 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 And look what's happening with this back hip. When we say now, watch what this back hip's doing. Now. 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 And it caught right up to where we wanted to. Right where we said we want that rotation. Look what it's doing. It's rotating. I'll even take it away so we can see it better. Now. 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 Unfortunately, that now has already occurred after this front foot has hit the ground. So if we could get this now movement to occur right before this foot hits the ground, meaning when we were saying now would be now. So that way you are getting that now into the ground, as opposed to already being into the ground and then now happens. Now. It's just a little late. So what does that mean? That just means we got to find the timing of when do we fire our knee and that back foot, so that way we can do it before this front foot hits the ground. You already fire the knee very well. Your body knows what to do with the back foot to get the back hip to go forward. It knows that I do this movement, I get this to go this way. Now it's just let me get this going this way before this gets into the ground. Once we do that, the power is going to be just flowing out of you. $19, oh my goodness. Okay. And then what we're going to notice here is two drastically different finishes. Okay, so we got one where we're falling forward, and we got one where we're spinning all the way around and even behind us slightly. So two different finishes coming from the same starting position means something was pretty drastically different, either in the movements, but probably more likely the timing of those movements is what caused those drastic differences in our finish. So what we're just going to kind of look at are some of the things that could be leading to those slight differences in timing. One we've already mentioned that we saw from the front view, and that is that the front arm, your glove side, flying open. That is going to cause a inconsistency of when we're going to be getting to release. Just because sometimes that glove's going to swing us aggressively, sometimes it's going to swing us lightly, sometimes it's going to swing us at 1001, sometimes it's going to swing us at 1, right? So it's all those little differences in that glove swooping out is going to cause slight little differences at our release, which will then ultimately affect our slight differences in our finish. So that's one example. And as we look at these side-by-side comparison of our front and side view, we'll see if we can find any other things that could lead to how different we're landing each time. So like we talked about with your teammate there, and I apologize, I don't remember our name here, Mr. Number 9. Like we talked about with him, you're also doing a really good job of sitting into this back hip, keeping our weight back. But like we mentioned, that's only as good as our ability to then rotate it at foot strike. So we see at the first moment of contact, the knee is starting to rotate, but the foot and hip have not. If we then continue to when you get that full foot in the ground, we can see that the foot has in fact fully rotated at this point. The knee has been able to fully rotate, and the back hip has been able to come through. And we know that because we can see that belt buckle, and we can see hip, and we know that that is more of this straight line. More of this straight line. So if we then kind of come back over here and be able to let you see kind of that side by side then, bud, boom, how much different this lower body looks here compared to this lower body here. We can see that belt buckle and that back hip has already come through. We don't get to see that on you until like here. But then at here, you look very similar almost to what we got working over here and here, where we lose that upper lower half separation. Anyway, back to here. So the movements that you're able to do, getting yourself into that full connection of front foot strike, is fantastic. This is a great lower body position to be at front foot strike. Unfortunately, like we can see and have mentioned already, it takes us a little bit to get that foot fully into that foot strike. So what do we got to do? We just got to think about rotating this knee more than we already are. If we could get this knee to rotate more, then it's going to be more underneath this foot when it lands, meaning the foot will land more flat. But if the knee is not rotating out, and the real reason the knee is even rotating this little bit to begin with at all is because the front foot is starting to do that swiveling rotation movement, the knee's never going to catch up. So if we can think about rotating the knee as we're landing, that's going to help us land more flat. And if we can land more flat and this knee can rotate out more, that will hopefully give us the amount of time we need, which is just milliseconds, just a little bit of time we're talking about here. If we can get those two things to happen with this front leg, that will then hopefully give us the time on this back leg, specifically this back foot, to complete its rotation, which gets that back hip to go rotating forward, which gets us into this great lower body position over here. We just want that great lower body position once that foot gets in the ground for the very first time. So that way our upper body can be in this good position here. So again, that's the timing. And that's just lower body stuff. And that's just once we get onto this mound and we're starting to work on this elevated surface, these are the keys and importances that will help us keep a healthy arm, help us throw strikes, help us throw hard, and help us keep the stress off our arms so we can throw all season long with no issues.